Thank you.
We had a really good discussion yesterday on our project Labyrinth, and I thought it would be really wise to take that beta testing subject that we were elaborating on and sort of dig a little bit deeper into the product that you're working with called the SeaStrike. So could you give a little introduction on your background and who you are?
So a little bit about it. Used to be a volunteer firefighter a long time ago, and then got into water sports, whitewater kayaking, and competitive paddleboarding. And then had the opportunity with my work, RP Advanced Mobile Systems, to take on the original Sea-Doo SAR unit when they discontinued it, and we remade it into the SeaStrike, still based off the Sea-Doo platforms. We have kits that'll fit the GTI, GTX, and RXT for different options. Depending on what the customer's wanting, what their operating conditions are, trying to find the best fit for their needs. And so we have our own, design of tubes, very similar to the Sea-Doo SAR. Individual tubes left and right, fully removable from the unit. One person can remove them in about a minute. Integrated aluminum bumper that you can or can't use. It's up to the team if they want it or not. And then, like for the river guys, we have a anti-debris intake grate. Just it all depends on what the unit is and where it's going. What their needs are. And so we will outfit with lights, radio systems.
I really liked the Sea-Doo SAR. It was a really good push for the occupational use of a rescue watercraft. So it's great to see that you guys are carrying on the tempo, what they created with the search and rescue vessel.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's been a very neat adventure.
How long have you guys been working on the product?
About 3.5, 4 years now.
Wow.
So pretty much right after they discontinued it, we started the talks and revisiting the table. We ended up having our hands on a 2014 SAR unit to see how they did it, put it on the water to see how it would function, what it, and really put it through its paces of, what we could do with it. And then, started seeing what we could do to put one together.
What I think is really great about the SeaStrike is the pontoons that are made in the United States.
Yep, made right here in Oregon.
Yeah, and that's pretty high quality control for a product like that because they're chambered and they're not going to blow up on you,
No.
Yeah.
No. And at least if you do have a failure, a cut or something, you still have one complete other side and it's, serviceable, because nothing is what I say bulletproof or operator proof.
Right.
Yeah, so, in the event you have a critical failure, is it going to, cost you a mission or somebody's life? And that's all, critical. We always try to have a view of, if it fails, who dies? So everything that goes out of the shop has to be 110%.
Yeah.
Because failure is not an easy option.
I just joined your Instagram page and I wasn't really knowledgeable about the product until our meeting yesterday. And I was really stoked to hear about the tubes because the tubes have been such a big concern for me in regards of safety. Because in our business, we're supposed to be the representatives of safety. So we need quality assurance on products. So,
correct.
Well, yeah, it's really nice to know the product isn't from overseas and that the standards are more stringent here.
Well, and as we've always looked at it, and I own and operate one myself. I have, kind of our prototype model, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And, I rely on those tubes a lot in some of the conditions. And, if I'm doing a rescue operation, I do a lot of kayak and paddle sport safety and also some of the river swim safety, for some of the triathlons and stuff. And if that fails or I can't get to one of them, it's a big problem. So not only am I relying on it, but, any of the rescue operators, whoever we're rescuing, they're relying on us, not only as operators to have the experience and knowledge, but also our equipment to be up to the par.
Are you selling the product as a full package, a turnkey package, or are you selling kits?
We do both. So we specialize in the builds, but then if somebody is, say, overseas or on the East Coast and wants to do it themselves, they can absolutely buy a kit from us. And we've got full work instructions. Every nut and bolt comes with it, precise locations, so somebody that has the mechanical competence can, in fact, install their own.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's great to hear that, because like with the personal watercraft, the rescue watercraft, there's like seasonal purchase on parts and products. So once you get to the end of the season, when you hit September and get that final Labor Day weekend in, parts are getting kind of scarce because they're tooling up for the next year production. So it's kind of nice to know that, you have what we'd call an appliance in the maritime world, or an accessory device to an original equipment manufacturer craft. So that's awesome, because you can get parts for both products stateside.
Correct. And, the way we're set up, say if a team has an existing Sea-Doo, they could actually take our kit and not have to buy a complete other unit or disassemble it.
Yeah.
They'll be able to put it on directly onto an existing unit.
Yeah.
Or send the unit to us and we can do it for them.
I would imagine, from my experience with sit downs, or what we call runabouts, which would be for me a 3-seater. Those are the ones that have the rear view mirrors that are not reliable for anything, really. But it's grandfathered in boating law for towing a person. So we know that if we're using a towable aquaplane device, what people call the sling of a sled or a rescue board, that those boats require the mirrors, because those boats come under the category of being able to tow an aquaplane device, which would traditionally be like water skis or a wakeboard or a tuber.
Right.
So it's kind of interesting when we're looking at the evolution of these products, because since the beginning of the modern movement of the jet ski, which Clayton Jacobson used the patent. Originally, he had the patent license agreement with Bombardier Recreational Products, Sea-Doo. And he had that before he had the Kawasaki one, and they created the first runabout. Wow. Yeah, it's pretty interesting when you know the history, you kind of know the product development and the styles, but really the need. And so the Sea-Doo watercraft that Clayton originally designed was actually a evolution of other people who had designed personal watercraft prior to him. But Sea-Doo took the risk and the innovation, and that's one thing that I've always seen about them, is that they're always, aiming for the next best product and activity. And you can see that in their marketing. Like their current marketing is they're doing the exploring, right? Yep. And fishing, the activities, and cruising. And that's kind of where the market is now. And for me, fishing's a big deal, because it's the most expensive therapy you could get. It's definitely cheaper to go buy a piece of fish at the fish market than it is. That's not the point, right? The point is,
there's something to be said for being able to sit out on the water for hours and just, even if you're not catching a fish, just being on the water.
Right. Absolutely. I see like a great advantage for people who are doing fishing, because of the stability in if you're in open water like the ocean, doing deep water fishing or nearshore fishing with any types of swell or windage influences, that the product that you guys have is pretty kind of vital, actually, because it just makes it so much easier, so you don't lose anything and you don't have to worry about your physical range of movement on the boat as much as
it's incredible. I mean, without my gear, I'm 210 pounds and I can fully stand on the side of my pontoons.
Yeah.
And my wife can actually stand on the same pontoon with me, and that thing won't even try to come up.
Yeah. I think fishing's a pretty big industry worldwide, and I know it drives the sales #1 in terms of the purchase power of the boats. And looking at the evolution of these products to help, provide additional buoyancy to the craft, we had in the early 1980s a product called the FunTech Wedge. And, we have foam collars today, but back then it was like a rotomolded plastic form that you would slot in there. And then we had the Party Shark. That was another type of a vessel with the propulsion being a jet ski, like a Kawasaki X2. And so we had all these different, or a TS, I'm sorry, TS was the first one. We've had all these products like early on, but they were a little too ahead of their time. Just like the original Sea-Doo that they came out with, the product is very similar in a lot of ways. I mean, it's kind of outdated in terms of some of the technologies, but the attitude of the boat on the water was the same experience people are looking for today. And
Oh, wow.
BRP had a massive marketing campaign beyond that, and it was pretty slick. They just had one issue they couldn't really solve with it, so they pulled it out. And then Clayton went back and created the stand-ups, and then the stand-ups just kept migrating right back to the runabouts. And with the FunTech Wedge, that actually was used extensively in the jet ski racing for stability for doing the rescues. And that's all attributed to Brad Southworth, who's the founding father of Rescue Watercraft. He's a Vietnam veteran, and he and Ronnie Kling put together the Rescue Watercraft program that we all kind of migrated with to where we're at today. Also, there's another racer, Dustin Matsuris, and there was an X2 product also in the late 80s that had like a fiberglass pontoon that would affix to the molding on the boat for flotation. So we've had these modular pieces for many, many years, but they're always just, the time is now. They've been here, but people weren't really interested in those products. And so I'm pretty excited to see that you guys are holding on to the Sea-Doo SAR concept and making improvements in the modernization of the utility need.
Yep. Yeah, it's really been quite neat, and being able to work somewhat with BRP. They do have us on their website somewhere in there. I can't remember how to find us, but and so we're actually part of their specialty dealer network, and we also do some land vehicle stuff. I sent you some stuff on.
Yeah,
they price on our website. It's been a really neat adventure, and having all the technology to put into these right now, like the 1603 Rotax engines, they're bomber. They are absolutely proven. On my personal unit, I think I'm sitting at 200 hours and almost 3,000 miles on it right now.
You guys are the fun guys. you guys are selling fun. I looked on the website. Well, I'll put a link in that for people to check out. But yeah, God, I don't know which one I'd pick. Everything was fun. Really fun.
I will admit, there's a lot of days in the shop I get to feel like a really big kid.
Yeah, it's so cool. Growing up, my grandpa was a race car builder and driver, and I got to hang out in his shop. And I do have a love affair for lawnmower engines, is what I started with, my first little mini bike. And then moving on up to an RM Suzuki 250 when I was 17. And just that progression, and then landing in with the jet ski fever, we called it. I still have that fever, and a lot of people do. It's kind of cool to see this new generation with the same enthusiasm and the expression of like, this is friggin' cool, right?
Oh, yeah.
And there's a lot of really great clubs around the country, on the recreational side. And it's really nice to see the progression of the watercraft for the recreational community, getting them out there and into the outdoors and onto the water and having adventures versus just riding around and, staying in one locale. But the thing is still pretty big, they got to be prepared. But that's kind of like you get an insurance policy with the SeaStrike, though, because if something does go down, your Sea-Doo is not going to be leveling out in the water, half submerged, semi-submerged with people in the water in terror. They're just going to be floating. So like I look at
Correct.
the safety aspect too. It's a secondary threshold of safety, which I think is really nice for the adventuresome.
Yep. Oh, absolutely. I know me and my wife, for our anniversary last year, we went up in the Puget Sound, rode all around the San Juan Islands, just adventuring. We put like 300 miles on in, I think, a 4-day weekend, and just had a ton of fun with it.
What I like is that the product itself has been around for a while. So the baiting testing phase is not being pushed onto the client like we had in, with products we were talking about yesterday, where we're not really sure of the maintenance. We're not really sure of the owner's manual. We're not really sure of this or that. What I like about this is that that quality assurance is really important because it backs up the safety message. So like you're not putting risk into the mix. As long as you maintain it properly and you're faithful to that, you're going to have a really good experience with the craft.
Oh, absolutely. And that's the nice thing with the Sea-Doo package too. Sea-Doo's got their maintenance dialed pretty well. Everything's laid out in the manual, and nothing we're doing on that product voids any of that.
Right. Yeah, they've already been there, done that with the SAR method. I was kind of sad to see that go because it was the first dedicated rescue watercraft that was produced in production. With the exception of I think it's the Alumaski from Alaska. There's a company up there that was making several models of these aluminum hull boats.
I've actually been on one. One of our local sheriff's offices, I want to say Lynn County, has one.
Yeah, they're river boats.
And only thing, he was testing my SeaStrike at the base of the Willamette Falls. And so he had me hop on his, and it was definitely slow on its responses.
Yeah,
it's a heavy craft for sure.
Yeah, it's for rock,
but it's pretty much indestructible.
Yeah, that was an intelligent hole for riverine, shallow water rock areas, which is problematic for fiberglass type hole or a nano-XL type hole. What is the construction of the primary SeaStrike hole? What is the components?
So on the GTI unit, which is one of the main ones we build, that's actually the one I personally own. It has their Polytech hull, which is the plastic, I want to say 1/2 inch thick hull. So you don't have to worry about any gel coat, and it's actually, if I remember right, the same, I want to say polyethylene that most of your whitewater kayaks are made out of. And I mean, I have bounced mine off some rocks. I beach it regularly, and it's just held up amazingly. I mean, I've purposely gone out and caught some pretty good airtime, just playing around with it, jumping waves and being stupid, thoroughly testing the piece of equipment, you might say.
Yeah, right.
And knock on wood, it has just been incredible. I've done some stuff. Well, shoot, the event I was at a couple weekends ago, I mean, it was short, tall chop, 3-4 foot chop with 1/2 second, 1 second duration, where it was too close to really be able to jump it. And, you didn't really want to idle through it because you're just getting slammed. And so even at 20 miles an hour, I mean, I was just getting slammed left and right, where you're feeling that echo come up through the hole, through your feet, into your knees, up your back, and just going, oh, that one hurt. And, I inspected it, washed it, everything when I got home from that weekend event, and you couldn't even tell I'd been out.
Tell me a little bit about the light package that you guys are selling for these units.
So it varies on the team's needs. So we'll do, some teams will actually want full emergency flashing. So we do nav lights as a more or less factory, unless the team doesn't want nav lights. We do full white light on the rear. We've done underwater lights in the drain ports for certain customers that wanted underwater lights.
Great.
I can't name the customer.
Great for fishing.
Yep. I can't name that customer because I'd get in trouble. But it just depends on the needs. So usually on most of the light, on like a full light package, it'll be rear facing white light, nav lights, And then front white lights, not only forward facing, but also on a ram mount, so they can turn them sideways, and put light wherever they need it, depending on what work they're doing.
That's really great because I've been in the industry since the inception of it. And for the search and rescue packages in the early days, in the early 1990s, people were putting fixed lights on the helm. And I mean, I tried it too and quickly realized that was a really big mistake because it creates a strobe effect because there's moisture that comes off the surface of the water. And you also have your bow wake, and it creates a strobe effect, and it's basically a whiteout, right? So that was like, it was great to see everybody move away from that. And I really like hearing about what you guys have done with the pivoting light.
Yeah, so, allows you to put the light wherever you need it. We actually do a remote fuse block that's key on power, usually out of second battery, depending on what the load is, because like I said, we want to make sure nothing's going to fail. Everything we use is IP69 rated, which is submersible. What was it? Like 30 feet down for, half an hour or something. Plus it can be pressure washed, really in situations of waterproofing that if you're that deep with a PWC or jet ski or SAR unit, you're in deep crap already.
Yeah, you're done. A lot of people don't realize how much of a heat signature the engine is putting off when it's running too. So like, you have an interior environment of heat condensation, all types of forces in there with the vibration. And if somebody's rough riding with the boat, I would imagine that the tube itself can kind of minimize some of that. And it
does absorb some of it. You definitely don't sink in.
Yeah.
Like you would on a traditional setup. What I've noticed, like slow speed, our tubes barely are kissing on flat water, or barely kissing the surface of the water.
That's the key.
We try to hold them up as high as possible.
Right. Yeah.
And yet have them, be steady without compromising the machine itself. That was a key thing for us, is we did not want to compromise the unit itself.
Right. The performance and the handling, right, of the hull.
Correct.
I've had clients call me who purchased like the tubes, the pontoons to affix to their boats, and they've been in parades and they've blown up on them.
Ooh.
Because it's one tube, so it's quite, it creates quite a scene. So it's really important for people to do the due diligence on the product development and the product materials, and really take their time and do proper research instead of just buying off of influence of somebody having that, because most of the people who are using them, they don't have the subject matter expertise to be able to define like you are in the terms of the benefits and things you would want to avoid too, because it's not like a cure, and nothing's a cure-all for everything.
No.
But you're not going to oversell something out of its performance level. And that's really key in terms of doing due diligence, is knowing exactly what you're getting yourself into. And then, the maintenance of it. A lot of people skip that and they ruin the product.
Correct.
Yeah. Overinflating, underinflating, that pressure is very important for the delivery.
It absolutely is. Especially in a hot environment, our tubes are rated for way more pressure than what we keep in them because of, sun inflation. And so we have actually talked about doing a blow off valve in the actual valving. And also we just haven't quite adapted that in yet. Just for some of the super hot environments. But usually we advertise for 4 PSI, but our tubes can handle, I believe it was like 12 or 16 PSI. I'd have to go back and look at the paperwork. I can't remember the exact parameter. But they're pressure tested to way more than what we actually designed, have for what the craft itself needs. The tube can actually handle a lot more pressure.
Oh, that's great. It's interesting because what happens with a lot of public safety agencies in terms of maintenance is they may or may not have a mechanic department that does all that. So the end user, if that's the policy, they may not be inspecting the these tubes before they do a deployment. And that can, if you're underinflated, that's a problem. And
Yep,
if
because
you're
the tube will
overinflated,
flop around.
yeah, and if they don't have permission to inspect the pressure points in terms of the air pressure on the chambers, you know, they're actually creating their own catastrophe. And I see this with the boats, the maintenance on the boats. So like my big thing is know the equipment, but know how to maintain it and inspect it. And don't hand it off to somebody else because you have eyes and hands on deck. You're the first point of reference.
No, that's actually one thing. So whenever we sell a set of tubes, we actually send a hand pump, a K pump that's actually made here in Oregon,
Nice.
with each set. And so that stays individual with each craft or each set of tubes. So they've got a dedicated pump there with it.
You know, that you brought up a really good point about temperature changes, because if you have clients that are more towards a colder climate and seasonal changes, and then the closer you get to the equator, you're going to have a different valuation of atmospheric temperatures and pressures, right? And then it is kind of interesting that it's not a one size fits all. It's location, 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 and season.
Well, and even on land, you know, say if you have your unit sitting in a fire station or outside as a ready go, you know, or even sitting on a dock, and then you deploy into the water, that water cools the tube a lot more than the air, and you're going to have a variation just on that result alone.
And like anything in the aquatic environment, there's going to be a lifespan deadline on the product just from exposure, especially with the ultraviolet. And the ocean, any ocean, is basically an acid wash. So, you know, you're dipping it constantly. And that's, people don't realize, you know, and this is a very important part of this discussion, is people do not realize that there's a price point value of depreciation for every use. And I tell my clients this, you know, this boat is going to last as long as your maintenance program is secure and as long as you buy quality products. But if you're buying junk, you're wasting money and time.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and I see this in a lot of my courses. I'll roll up on scene and the product's not really ready to even, you know, we really can't train with it. It's not safe. So an accessory is not going to fix that. They have to dig into that program and respect the products that they're using. And, you know, the life you save may be your own. That's what Rescue 3 International's motto is. And it's certainly true with it. And our equipment is an extension of that.
Oh, it absolutely is.
Yeah.
You know, and that was, you know, part of our design with doing the tubes. You know, there's no ropes holding the tube on. It's all a mechanical hold. You know, so there's really, other than the tube itself, nothing to rot. You know, with the bumper being aluminum with all stainless hardware, everything has a PTFE, all the, you know, I should say all the threaded bolts and everything. We do a PTFE on it so it doesn't gall up. You know, it's all designed to be very serviceable.
The straps are entrapment. That's a major safety risk for anybody. That's a trap. Absolutely. Entrapment. Yeah, that can cost somebody their life or drag them if they get into a mishap where the vessel capsizes or starts to heal. That would typically happen with water overhead high, typically. It's very difficult to capsize one of these boats.
Oh, it is. I've actually tried, and
yeah,
I haven't tried it crazy hard, but it definitely has been quite impressive.
Yeah.
I took a pretty good swim actually out at Pacific City January 1st. You know, we had double, triple overhead size, and I'm out there playing in the surf zone with some other stand-up guys.
Oh, cool.
And had a hell of a lot of fun just, you know, dodging in and out, running from the really big stuff and just, you know, practicing my timing, what the craft could do.
Yeah.
And I made a slight mistake and I was running parallel to a small one, you know, about 2-3 foot, but it was packing a lot of energy and it just fully ejected me. And, you know, of course, I was wearing my kill switch and all my proper gear. I popped up and it's, you know, 20 feet from me, swam to it. It's still upright, just sitting there, climbed up over the tube, key on, and away we went.
Yeah, that's cool. I wish I had more videos of my mishaps because they were way more dramatic than that.
Oh, I believe it.
Oh, they'd be YouTube hits, but unfortunately, when I was starting out, we didn't have video like you do today, you know.
Well, and
Everything.
even then, what I've realized is half the time when you're out, when it's really something you want to have on video, there's no cameras around because everybody's got their head down doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Oh, I would say I'm probably the queen of wipeouts, but 30 years ago, you know, it's like one of those skeleton crunching moments is enough for the rest of my life. And they were pretty dramatic. So
Ooh.
yeah, this has been a really good discussion because there is a lot of determination in the quality of the product, the build of a product. But in our world, the safety aspect is it shouldn't cause harm. It needs to be a viable product that brings some kind of a benefit and increases the assets interoperability, and that
Correct.
there's a justification for the need. And so I really see these type of boats being super efficient in flood and swift water environments, you know.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
And even in your bays, your bay, and even into some of the small surf zones, some of these small coastal fire departments,
Well,
it
I'll
gives.
tell you, just open swell in the ocean sometimes when it's really moving and you've got pretty inclement weather, training out in swell is sometimes more hectic than inside a surf zone.
Oh, it
So,
definitely can be.
yeah, and especially if you have a harbor where you have like the Columbia River Bar or Morro Bay Harbor, where you have a water inlet that's going out, so you have an outgoing tide and incoming swell. Those standing waves are just as
Huge.
dynamic as you can get in a river on particular, you know, water patterns.
Yeah,
And
if not far more dynamic.
yeah, very difficult to make the point of contact with the survivor in the water. So I could see like rough water activity use. I know that there's a lot of products out there on the market that are being used, certainly like right before the SAR came out, there was a few products that were brought out onto the market. But even before that, there was a couple people that were just doing the R&D. But I think the time is now. I think the product concept was a little ahead of its time, and I think now it's sort of the people are ready to go to that next level. You know,
I
and
think so. Well, and I think, part of the SARS draw too is its size and package.
mhm.
Because it's, like if you go buy, say, a 22 foot, aluminum rescue boat or a rib, how much money are you spending versus one of these? Then you talk storage. If a department can haul two of these, or store two of these in their department versus one full size boat.
Yeah, those marine units are pushing $250,000 to $1 million in those packages with crew. And these are kind of, you know, in the old days, we'd say the poor man's rescue boat, but not anymore. It's sort of the universal water rescue tool for confined spaces and close quarters because of the size of the boat. But it is really exciting to see products like what you guys are doing, and I'm really glad that the Sea-Doo SAR is living on again, you know, with a better design. It seems to be that, like, I looked at the photos. I haven't tried one yet. I'm looking forward to doing that. But just from my experience looking at the photos, I like the concept that the tubes are not floating the boat, because that's a disaster. And so the boat actually has its original performance value. You haven't taken away from that. And I think that's very intelligent. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, even, I absolutely love how our tube design works. Even at full throttle, coming into a hard corner, the tubes don't hinder the turning.
Right.
And for me, I'm a fan of the mobility of it. That's part of what makes these what they are, is being able to get in where the big boats physically can't. Whether it's beaching, getting into a shallow or hard cornering river where the big boats don't have room to operate.
Yeah, I was involved in the beta testing phase with the Sea-Doo SAR years back, and there was a lot of great opportunities with the boat, but the tube design was a little too aggressive. And you guys seem to really dig into that and fix that, because that was something we couldn't resolve. with what that design was at the time. So I can tell just from what my experience was with 1 year working on the beta testing on their concept boats, that what you guys have done is you resolved the things that I wasn't able to overcome because the product was already going into the production mode, but you fixed it. So like, the time is now. I think you corrected it, because what I've seen is that people try and take an original equipment manufacturer boat and then adapt these appliances and accessories to it, but they don't really understand the fundamentals of the hydrodynamic thrust and the signature of the hull, the blueprint of the hull. So they're not interfacing their product. It's just rescue fashion, really. And that's not what this product is. This one actually is intelligent because it's working with the boat and not taking away from its handling abilities, especially when it's up on plane. When you look at other rigid, because it's a rigid hull boat is what it is. It's not like a Zodiac where it's a soft bottom, right? We have a deep V and we have a hard hull boat, but none of those boats are floated by the tubes that they have, by the pontoons or the hypalon tubes. They're not floated by that. That's not, the hard hull is when it's up on plane, it's moving away from the tubes contact with the water. This is where a lot of failure existed prior, but I'm really glad to see you guys fix that, because you solved the critical mass on the craft. Kudos to you guys. You did it right. Yeah. Impressive.
I look forward to being able to get you on one and seeing how it responds for you.
Yeah, I'm probably going to be heading up your way soon. I've got a lot of great people I've trained up in Oregon. Cannon Beach, you got to go check out Cannon Beach, the fire rescue. They have a really good volunteer program there. And then I've got some great friends in Washington Forks up north, and the South Pacific County Technical Rescue Team, all volunteer group. Those people are pretty amazing. Outstanding volunteer group. I love all of them. They're like my family. So I'll be heading up there to see them again.
Well, perhaps I meet you up there and I can put you all on it and get everybody's opinions.
Yeah, it would be good. It'd be good to do that, actually. It'd be really great. Tell me about this other stuff you've got. Looking at your website, I'm looking at this. I'm like dying of curiosity. You've got these extreme duty ATV, UTV tires that go on actual vehicles, and those vehicles look pretty friggin' badass.
Thank you. So our tires are our own line. They're a run-on flat tire, 12-ply tires. So they are heavy, but they're designed for the EMS, police, and of course military usage. So that way that even if the tire is shot, it gets a nail in it, whatever happens, even with zero air in it, the vehicle is going to be able to finish its mission and get back to base.
Oh man, I like your product. I'm looking at it right now. Okay.
So as you can see, that we have a theme throughout every one of our lines of being, there for the services. And and making sure we get our teams in, out, back home to their families. Rescue who needs rescued. Basically whatever is needed.
I just did a class here on Long Island with the Village of East Hampton, and they're running their beaches for safety with the all-terrain vehicles too. And you guys have a lot of really, you even got the adaptions for snow. So you got the tracks for snow, and you got the tires. And that's the new thing too. I mean, they kind of go hand in hand with the rescue watercraft. They're small, nimble vehicles that they're powerhouses for, near shore work.
Oh, absolutely. Well, even mid-city, we've actually sold a lot of them to the cities because they get these narrow alleyways.
Yeah.
So we've done some firefighting and even EMS with full ROPS and the striker kits, or basically any of the litter kits, including the striker ambulance gurneys, to the normal. My mind's escaping me. The other cot systems. I lost the terminology. I think you know what I'm talking about.
It's okay.
And we can pair them with fire skids, that are foam injected and that are made actually down in California, from 6x6 units, pretty much any kind of EMS light package, sirens, whalers, street legal kits, pretty much anything they can dream up that they could use one for is what we specialize in, more or less.
It's really a good turnkey kit, especially for disaster work, small asset, easy to move around. So yeah, I can see you guys, you got your footprint on the right industry. You're not just a one product knockoff, like you're tried and true. So, and
nope.
A little more.
And so another product there that you've probably are seeing on our website is our new bulletproof shield.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is actually one that is only for law enforcement. We actually don't sell. So all of our vehicle stuff will sell to law enforcement, police, fire, military, or public. The shield is law enforcement only. And that is a ultra light. That shield only weighs 6. It's actually buoyant neutral. Which is, especially for some of the watercraft or boats out there, that could be huge for them. But it is a multi-hit shield. We actually have testing where, a shield was shot over 30 times and nothing penetrated it. 9mm, 5.56. So it's a class 3 shield. We're not armor penetrating rated yet. We're actually working on a design for full armor penetrating rounds.
Oh, that's great.
But, most of our law enforcement, thank God, don't have to deal with those rounds, but we want to have an option for them just in case.
I'm looking at your trailer too for the Striker where you've double stacked them. That's a really cool trailer. So you can keep the tubes inflated, the pump.
Oh, yeah, for the SeaStrikes, the double trailer we did.
That's really cool.
That was a fun one to figure out. So we had a customer that, of course, ordered 2 of the SeaStrikes.
Yeah.
And they didn't want to do a nose to butt trailer, whereas longer. They wanted to be able to move them around their facility.
Right.
I have to pick my words carefully here.
Sure.
And they wanted to be able to move it around their facility and then be able to launch both ready to go. And so they'd have to launch. What we figured out is to launch the bottom one. And then the rear is actually a set of airbags with a valving system. And so you take the rear stand, the safety stand off, let the air out, second one drops right into the water. And then you just load them straight in the reverse. Because, of course, the SAR units and the SeaStrikes, they're a wide craft.
Yeah, they are.
So even 2 factory units barely fit on any trailer, side by side, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so we ended up doing one up, one down. It's a really neat design. We've had a couple clients ask us to do it again. And so we do have that design ready to go if we have to.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that a lot. That's really cool. So you guys are in McMinnville, Oregon.
Yep.
Very cool. Nice. I'm just cruising your website right now. So, this was unplanned. This wasn't a scripted meeting. I just called you up on Instagram and I said, hey, let's do a meeting. And you're like, okay. And
yeah, literally today.
Yeah, I didn't know you until yesterday. So I really like the product a lot. I can see the quality build in it, being around, the personal watercraft industry for so long and being in shops and fabrication. I can see you guys, you got your act together. It's really nice to see. I want to say welcome to our community. It's nice to have you guys on board.
I greatly appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So
I definitely am looking forward to learning more from you guys and working together on hopefully some stuff.
Yeah, we're going to have more of our program meetings, and I'm really glad I met you yesterday and that you stepped up and put some time into this, because our conversations they're meaningful and they're worthwhile. They're very important.
Yep. Yeah. Now, I would say this, and I say this on my own, I can't represent the company on this part.
Right.
But if we have a team or somebody that's curious on what the SeaStrike can do, how it feels on the water, I will absolutely be happy to meet anybody here in Oregon, hand them my key, once they're, proven that they can actually ride and not damage my craft, because I personally own it and it's expensive. But, if you have somebody that, wants to try one, I'd be more than happy to put them on it.
Oh, that's great.
Because I'm a hands-on person. Paperwork, literature, it only tells you so much. It doesn't tell you a whole story.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah. The hands-on touch check thing is the way to go with performance related products, because videos can take you so far, but it's kind of crazy. A lot of people buy stuff without even ever doing an inspection, and I do not understand that. So I expect you're going to get some contact after this video is posted, because due diligence, again, is the safety mindset, and you don't want to take on product randomly. But so that's what I really am impressed with. It means something to me from that mindset, is that it's the quality assurance, because I'm not seeing a lot of that in products coming our way in the last couple of years. We've just seen a lot of questionable practices and methods and products that are not making our world better. And I think this is the first product that I've witnessed that I could really get behind and go, yeah, I think this thing's something that we could push, that was meaningful for people, because number one, you guys got a customer care package set up to where I can get on the phone with you if I have a question. And this is problematic with safety and rescue products. So I really see this being a tremendous asset in the flood and the swiftwater, because the floods are actually the #1 response worldwide for life saving in terms of disasters, right? So the flood drowning prevention is a big deal for us in our community. And I have quite a few videos where people are capsizing during flood rescue attempts on personal watercraft, or what we call rescue watercraft. And the other thing I see them doing, which is really dangerous, is they're using the TADS, the towable aquaplane devices in floods, which is a no-no, a big no-no, a big safety no-no. And that's why people need to train with and without one, so that they can adapt to the situation as a professional boater. And when you look at the worldwide and the flood situations worldwide, globally, recreational riders are doing more rescues than trained professionals, and they don't have TADs, towable aquaplane devices, and they're doing it fine.
Yeah, and they're doing it with no flotation aids. Half of them no dry suits. They're there because they have a big heart. They have a boat that can get in and out, and they're like, I'm here, use me. Yeah,
it's pretty remarkable. So we're speaking the language of a lot of different operators, from professional to recreational. So thank you so much for spending your Sunday with me. It's June 25th, 2023. And I really like this conversation a lot. I hope other people can get behind this, and we'll contact your company and check it out.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I'll see you on Instagram.
See ya.
Okay, bye. See you later.